On our way to reaching and into the summit. This AGRF is happening at a time when the agricultural sector that brings us process. But this is about Africa. The AGRF is about Africa and African people. So as we come to this meeting, let's talk about how we go forward to advance our continent and our people towards 2030. And now, it's my pleasure to invite you, Chair, to address this meeting. Thank you again and welcome.
Dr. Mohammed, hold on. Dr. Kalibata, you can sit over there. I want to introduce this guy in a different way, if I may. Dr. Kalibata, have a seat. So this man, I knew him for many years, right? I used to MC, we were in Kigali, so I introduced the chairman, and he introduces the president, and the president comes back and he says, "Thank you, Jeff." Yet this man still calls me Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the Partners Group of the AGRF, former Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. Welcome, sir.
Let me officially say thank you, Jeff. Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and our host, Excellencies, heads of state and government in attendance in this summit, Your Excellencies, former heads of state and government, delegated ministers, AGRF partners and sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored and privileged to welcome you to the Africa Green Revolution Forum 2021 Summit. On behalf of the AGRF partners, I would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation to the government and people of the Republic of Kenya, most notably to His Excellency and dear brother, President Uhuru Kenyatta, for hosting AGRF 2021 Summit. Your Excellency, through you, let me thank the people of Kenya for their usual hospitality and African generosity in hosting the AGRF 2021 Summit for the second time, just in 5 years' time, in this beautiful city of Nairobi. Your Excellencies, we have over 88 heads of state and government attending this year's summit, and this certainly shows that our leaders have shown unprecedented commitment to end all forms of hunger and malnutrition through sustainable agriculture by supporting our smallholder farmers and small and medium enterprises involved in agribusiness. It also shows that they are committed to address the physical and market infrastructure deficit that constrain improvement of agricultural productivity. Yes, it shows that our leaders are here to galvanize Africa's common position on the UN Food Systems Summit that's going to be conducted in 2 weeks' time, and to uphold and further develop our key principles of inclusivity, that no one is left behind, and in environmental sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and mutual accountability among stakeholders in our global community. Above all, they are here to ensure that the COVID-19 pandemic does not create a food security crisis, and our people respond and adapt to the new reality and challenges with resilience and ingenuity as the situation evolves. Finally, Your Excellencies, we want to think differently and act urgently as the situation doesn't warrant business as usual. Our youth and women have enormous potential, and we want to hear from you, Your Excellencies, how we can harness and effectively capture these dividends. Your landmark decision to establish a continental free trade agreement which integrates our markets, harmonizes our policies, and regionalizes our food value chain is indeed a significant opportunity where our agri-food systems has to capitalize on. But, Your Excellencies, how can we expedite its implementation in a spirit of sense of urgency? Our summit today kindles a great hope of enthusiasm. There is enough energy and inspiration around to ensure that we emerge out of the prevailing challenge victorious. We will not rest until our shared vision of an inclusive and sustainable agri-food system transformation is attained. Your Excellencies, we need your guidance. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. No one gets left behind, Prime Minister, like you said. And wow, he knows my name. Thank you, sir. Many people here in Kenya and East Africa are very familiar with the name Amina Mohammed. We have our very own Ambassador Amina Mohammed, Cabinet Secretary right here in Kenya. But there is another Amina Mohammed. She happens to be the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. We're going to go live to her right now for a key address. Ambassador, good to see you.
Thank you. There you go. You made a mistake. I'm not the ambassador. It's my sister in Nairobi. Jeff, thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's a real pleasure to join you here from New York and bring the greetings of the Secretary General to this AGRF summit, and particularly with our heads of state who are gathered here to consider how we transform and act around food and agriculture. And at this point, I would like to give a special thanks to the Special Envoy to the Secretary General on the Food System Summit, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, who has been absolutely amazing. There's one leader that I'd like to thank President Kagame for in giving her that opportunity to serve as Minister of Agriculture, because where everyone has doubted that transformation of food systems is possible in Africa, it has been Dr. Kalibata's voice and her experience in Rwanda and across the international community when she served as minister that is loudest and has proved that we can do things. So once again, thank you, President Kagame. You continue to open the space for women to do the things that we know we can do so much better than men. On that, I would also like to thank AGRA for loaning Dr. Kalibata, because this was more than a part-time job. It has been full-time, and just really to appreciate that the experiences and exposure that she brings from the many works of AGRA in Africa has been absolutely amazing. Your Excellencies, President Kenyatta, our host, and our former Prime Minister, Desalegn, who is our chair, we really appreciate your leadership and efforts to convene us around this critical agenda. The world started this decade of action well off track to achieve the SDGs by 2030. Climate change, conflict, and COVID-19 are exacerbating matters today. We meet at a time of rising food insecurity and hunger, seeing up to 811 million people in the world facing hunger in 2020, and as many as 161 million of them more than in 2019. No region of the world has been spared, though the impacts are not equally shared. In Africa, 1 in 5 people faced hunger in 2020, more than double the proportion of any other region. Malnutrition in all its forms remains entrenched, particularly amongst women and children, and 37% of the world's stunted children can be found in Africa. While we are severely off track to achieve SDG 2, zero hunger, this goal cannot be achieved in isolation. Ending hunger requires considering food as a system, revealing a range of intersecting challenges that are undermining our progress towards all of the SDGs. Excellencies, we're gathered here at the AGRF to lift our thinking and our ambition. Science shows us that transforming our food systems drives progress across the board, from climate action to reducing pollution, from reducing biodiversity loss and overuse of natural resources to generating livelihoods, creating new jobs, and empowering many of our communities. Over the past 18 months, the UN system, under the leadership of the SG, has been leading the process of a food systems summit to awaken the world to the fact that we have to work together to transform the way the world produces, consumes, and thinks about food. In this process, 147 countries and hundreds of thousands of people all over the world have stepped forward with new energy and ideas to improve food systems in their context to achieve all of the SDGs by 2030. Governments everywhere are recognizing the importance of building resilient food systems, particularly at a time of crisis. But there is no one-size-that-fits-all solution. Food systems vary by location. Our approaches must be rooted in local and regional realities. The majority of the African continent is engaged in this process. 44 countries, or 80% of all African governments, have conducted multi-stakeholder dialogues, which are leading to the development of national pathways for the transformation of food systems to achieve the SDGs. Our pathway documents describe how the transformation will be delivered, drawing out the key elements of food systems which will be required to change and evolve over the next 5 to 10 years and beyond. Although they vary in approach, the pathway documents show considerable commonality about the mechanisms which will be required to deliver on ambitious plans for food system transformation. At the heart of all of this is for us to recognize in the international community that this must be demand-driven by countries, and that the gaps that remain in order to get the transformations can then be filled by the international community, and not that Africa or Latin America or Asia need prescriptions on how their food systems will transform. Many of the ambitious plans include ensuring the governance of food systems is integrated across sectors, that the interests and rights of all people are reflected, particularly our women and young people, and scaling up new methods for investing in the infrastructure, knowledge, and innovations. These documents provide us with a powerful basis on which to build action in the decade ahead and can guide the UN system's support. As a daughter of Africa, I'm pleased that the African continent has played a leadership role in this process at all levels. Time and time again, we see lasting solutions coming from Africans tailored to African challenges. Excellencies, the aim of our meeting today, African leaders coming together, is to challenge us all on thinking about this transformation journey, but also to ensure this leadership translates into action on the ground. Our challenges are very clear. We will not achieve the 2030 agenda if we don't transform our food systems. Many of the transitions that we will engage with and invest in, from energy to connectivity to transport, food systems will be at the heart. We will not support our people to adapt to climate change if we don't transform. Agenda 2063 will remain a dream if we don't have those transformations. The AGRF is an essential forum for Africans to come together with innovation and daring solutions for tough challenges. I hope by listening to each other, we can help bring a unified African voice to the Food Systems Summit in the next 2 weeks. And I look forward to hearing more about your plans on the future of food in your countries and the commitments that you bring to underpin them. Only together can we chart that course, and that transition would help us to achieve our shared goals for people, for planet, and for our prosperity. But let me end on a note. Investing in the food systems will require an international effort, with, of course, our countries at the heart of that. I hope that some of the opportunities that people like Dr. Vera Shongwe have opened up in the discussions with the SDRs will see the voices of our leaders demand that those SDRs actually help to shape and to fill the gaps that we need with the fiscal space that is needed to create these transformations. So I look forward, President Kenyatta, to your voice on the SDRs and on seeing and making sure that more of them come to Africa. 650 billion, a lot of SDRs, a very small percentage comes to Africa. Even more can be reallocated if really the international community wants to put its action where its words are. And so for that, I'm very grateful to be at this meeting, and I look very much forward to the steps after. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Deputy Secretary General. Real quick, before I let you go, like you mentioned, the Food Systems Summit happens in 2 weeks in New York. This is literally the run-up to that summit. What would you like to hear today from we've got heads of state from about 6 African countries online right now, the dignitaries, the cabinet secretaries, the ministers, the heads of department, the captains of industry. What do you want to hear today from them?
Well, that's a difficult one. I'm waiting to hear to see where it happens. I mean, look, our presidents have been working at this long before the Food Systems Summit process began. I think we have to recognize it didn't start today. So I'd like to hear what you need as leaders in Africa that will build on the work that you're doing to see the transformations that we need. And that includes investments, but it also includes what we need to do across sectors to bring forth the priorities that you have in government. So really very much about what's the gap that we need to feed and to fill for us to achieve those transformations. Much of it is resources, but perhaps there's some political will that's needed from different parts of this globe. What the UN does is to convene those voices, and I'd be very happy to take back those voices into the General Assembly and to make it clear that we're amplifying African leadership's voices on food transformation.
Absolutely. I'll see you in 2 weeks in New York, whether I'm invited or not, Deputy Secretary General. Deputy Secretary General Amina J. Mohammed. Thank you. All right, folks, on to our keynote address for this afternoon. So, in order to introduce the President, I would like to introduce the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives here in Kenya. Please welcome Peter Munya on the stage. Thank you, sir.
Excellencies, heads of states and governments present, Excellencies, former heads of state and government, fellow ministers representing various countries, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of Kenya, as the chairperson of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. He represents 48 countries from Sub-Saharan Africa, 16 from the Caribbean, and 15 from the Pacific, whose main aims are sustainable development and the poverty reduction within its member states. His passion for the blue economy has positioned him as the patron of the high-level panel on sustainable blue economy, a panel of 14 countries that have come together with a shared vision of the ocean. His priority agenda for the youth led to his endorsement by world leaders as the global champion of the Young People's Agenda in 2018 by the United Nations, which has acted as a rallying call to get every young person into quality education, training, or employment by 2030. Back home, he has been leading the transformation of the agricultural sector through the pillar of food security in his Big Four agenda. Your Excellencies, I present my President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, Your Excellency, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Haile Mariam Desalegn, all our wonderful guests across the world, ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct pleasure and a very high privilege for me to welcome you all to the Africa Green Revolution Forum 2021 Summit, And let me say, Karibuni Kenya, although virtual, it is wonderful to have you all with us. Your Excellencies, permit me to commence my remarks by extending my gratitude to all of you for joining us today as we convene under the auspices of the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa to reflect on the bold steps that our respective governments are taking to transform our respective food systems. On behalf of the government and the people of Kenya, I want to thank you for honoring Kenya by granting us the privilege of hosting once again the Africa Green Revolution Forum Summit. This 2021 summit offers an opportune moment for all our nations to put our thoughts together, accelerate action, and make commitments to deliver resilient food systems for our continent and our people. We convene amidst a disruption that has caused untold grief and strain to the lives and livelihoods of millions in our countries, across the continent, and globally. No aspect or sector of social economic life has been spared. The enormous pressure on our food systems caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects has exposed the vulnerabilities of our food systems and reversed hard-earned gains that we had secured earlier. Just as an example, two of the greatest drivers of agriculture are the manufacturing sector and the hospitality sector. Travel restrictions have severely constrained the hospitality sector, which has in turn led to subdued uptake of agricultural produce that causes massive losses to farmers. In light of the realities that we are confronted with, now more than ever, the call to accelerate action and make increased commitments to deliver resilient food systems is urgent. Therefore, at this year's forum, we must identify immediate actions and steps that are required to accelerate progress and recovery towards inclusive agricultural transformation. As we head into the United Nations Food Systems Summit, as Amina has just told us, let us use this summit to cement a single coordinated African position that will be placed before the United Nations Food Systems Summit. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on our part, my administration remains committed to the food system transformation agenda. We are remodeling Kenya's food systems into one that exploits the vibrant energy of our youth, thereby making it more inclusive, innovative, collaborative, as well as dynamic. Equally important to note is that our renewed drive anchors our food systems transformation agenda on data-based decisions. Armed with the relevant and precise data, we are better able to make targeted interventions that address water scarcity, climate change, land pressure, and the competition between subsistence food crops and export cash crops. The United Nations Food Systems has given us a platform to reflect and to rethink our strategies of making our food systems more resilient and sustainable. Kenya has been fully engaged in this process. Our national and subnational dialogues throughout the country have driven the identification of the actions needed to achieve the food security pillar of our nation's Big Four agenda. These all-inclusive and comprehensive discussions were undertaken at all levels of our nation, from the grassroots at the village and the local level, all the way to the national level. 4 critical pathways and priorities for Kenya's food systems were identified, and these actions are youth, digital innovation, diverse diets, and climate change. Specifically, we aspire to increase the number of young people receiving school-based agricultural education, increasing the uptake of digital agricultural solutions, improving the diversity of diets, including fresh fruit, vegetables, dairy, meat, fish, as well as grains, and lastly, to heighten climate action to build resilience of our agriculture and food systems generally. Further, the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy that my administration is currently reforming the sector by increasing output and productivity, boosting incomes in agribusiness, and ensuring household resilience and food security. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I call upon each one of us, both state and non-state actors, to use this Africa Green Revolution Forum to make commitments towards transforming our food systems. On our part, Kenya is making tremendous efforts to foster the realization of this shared aspiration among all nations of the world. As we all undoubtedly appreciate, our youth and our children have been raised with the perception that agriculture is an antiquated and perhaps even an unworthy occupation. Rather than venturing into spaces within the agricultural sector, they would prefer white-collar occupations, particularly those in traditional prestige professions or in the emerging areas of digital content and ICT. In order to overcome these negative perceptions and to show our children and youth the nobility as well as the profitability of agriculture, we are elevating the place of agriculture in our schools by revitalizing the 4K clubs. We are doing this because Kenya's 31,218 primary schools and their enrollment of close to 10 million school-going children offers a vast network through which knowledge about food and nutrition security can be boosted. The revitalized 4K clubs will provide a holistic approach to positive youth development at home, school, and also within the community by building on the strength of the youth as active agents of community development. Through these clubs, the values of patriotism, volunteerism, and the dignity of agriculture will be inculcated in our children during their early formative years. Further, as a leader in school meals programs since the 1980s, Kenya is also taking an active role in the UN Food Systems Summit School Meals Coalition. Worldwide today, 388 million school children have been receiving school meals since the pandemic struck. Together with our partners, including the World Food Programme and the African Union, we will work to find sustainable and innovating funding sources for schools, feeding programs, and with the multiple stakeholders to achieve better outcomes for school children globally. So, Your Excellencies, as I conclude, I want to invite this summit to ponder our current crisis and to ponder so boldly, frankly, and with a spirit of hope in the possibilities that we can make a reality. Let us reflect on the words of President J.F. Kennedy, who once famously said, and I quote, "The war against hunger is truly mankind's war of liberation," end of quote. We have an opportunity to fundamentally recast the position of food and nutrition security in our countries, in the continent, and globally. If we have the will, I believe we can find the way. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to have the great pleasure of declaring the African Green Revolution Forum 2021 Summit officially opened, and I wish each and every one of us very fruitful deliberations. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for setting the stage, and thank you for agreeing to be part of the presidential summit that's going to happen in a couple of minutes' time, along with your fellow presidents, heads of state from Rwanda, Uganda, Djibouti, Namibia, the Vice President of Tanzania also online, and also Malawi as well. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. Once again, round of applause for the host president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. On to the summit, folks. Let's not waste time. To moderate this summit, please welcome Dr. Vera Songwe. Now, she is the United Nations Under-Secretary General and the 9th Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, the ECA. Now, this is Africa's premier thought leadership institution focused on generating knowledge and applying policy research in support of accelerated economic diversification and structural transformation. Dr. Vera, if you can hear me, I know you're in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Welcome to the AGRF 2021. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks for excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My sister Agnes, I'm going to follow you and say all protocols observed, but I must recognize His Excellencies, the heads of state, and of course, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed. My role today is to ask the leaders what they're going to do to ensure that the Food System Summit is successful. But before I start, maybe just to have a little bit of context, and yes, with a little bit of think tanking in its wake. We're nearing the end of 2021. This leaves us with only 8 more years to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The decisions you make as leaders today is going to determine whether we meet those goals and how close we get to them if we don't meet them as a continent. It is going to decide whether every man, woman, and child on the continent is going to live in a prosperous Africa in 2030 or not. But before we do that, we have COVID-19, as President Kenyatta has just emphasized. It has challenged us, it has stretched our imagination, it has stretched our resilience, but it has also proven that Africa can rise to its challenge. A lot of the hard-won gains that we had in the last decade are at risk of disappearing, but we have kept the fight alive. Today, when we look at the numbers, we've had about 7.9 million Africans who have had COVID. About over 200,000 of them have unfortunately been hospitalized, and we have lost an equivalent number. Those are large numbers who are affecting our rural communities and our food systems. And so as we talk about food systems, of course, we must talk about COVID. The rest of the world is at about 55% vaccinated. Africa is still sadly at 4.8%. We cannot have effective food systems if we do not vaccinate and if we don't get the COVID-19 fight under our belt. Yet, collectively, we have learned as we fought COVID-19 that as Africa speaks as one, if Africa speaks as one, we can win that battle. And I think President Uhuru Kenyatta, President Kagame, we have always said that, and we will continue to do that. We must think about agriculture and food in a different way as we speak. I urge your excellencies to think about what we must change, learning from the past, learning from the COVID-19 crisis, from how Africa and Africa's leadership have acted, and how the rest of the world has responded to Africa. We must react differently to the rest of the world and to ourselves. We have a tremendous opportunity here in the AGRF and the UN Food System Summit in the next 2 weeks' time to chart a new pathway. And Dr. Agnes Kalibata, hands on the ground, understands the challenges, but clearly has success under her belt, and she can bring it to this conversation on how we can build resilient food systems over the next few years that will be critical for driving a sustainable Africa by 2030. A sustainable Africa by 2030 is a lofty goal. If we put it in numbers, 250 million Africans tonight will go to bed hungry. That is the conversation that we are having here as well. The studies that the ECA has done with the FAO and the AGRF shows that this 250 million Africans who go to bed hungry are mostly women and kids. So this conversation is also about them and how we bring them into a prosperous Africa. As leaders, I will ask you a first question on various aspects related to building resilient food systems. I will ask all your excellencies a second question that will be the same, namely, what are your priorities going into the UN Food System Summit in 2 weeks? Now, let me turn my first question to President Kenyatta. And thank you for hosting the summit. You have been a leader on these issues, and we thank you for hosting again the summit here in Kenya. Your Excellency, Kenya has taken the issue of food security and food systems seriously. In fact, it is part of your big four, as you have just laid out, and we've already seen some of the successes that you have begun to see and realize. Congratulations. How is Kenya progressing towards achieving your aspirations under the food and nutrition security pillar in more detail?
Thank you very much, Vera, for that. And let me say that since 2013, my government has been very focused on trying to ensure that 100% food and nutrition security is actually attained. And we've put in place various measures, including programs for food and crop diversification. We have an e-voucher program that supports staple crop farming, and as well as farmers in the livestock and dairy value chain as well. We've also put in place programs that encourage the growth of indigenous food crops, such as sorghum, millet, and cassava. And we're also encouraging people to embrace the growth and consumption of indigenous vegetables, another more nutritious other than conventional vegetables. And this, I believe, is very critical, especially for all those of us in arid and semi-arid areas. We've also been moving towards flour blending and flour fortification policies that are encouraging millers to blend staple maize flour with either cassava, millet, and beans and other type of crops as well. And I believe that all of this will not only help in commercializing such crops, but will also bolster our efforts towards our nutrition outcomes as well. And in this, we're working both as a national government together with our county governments to develop elaborate training systems as well, and to also have a good number of extension workers who are out there on nutrition sensitive agriculture. And we're also looking, as I said in my speech earlier, at having more youth participation in the provision of both digital extension work, advisory services, but also engage in agriculture directly themselves. During this COVID-19 period, especially at the height of lockdown, we also started looking into other areas. And one of the programs that we started was the distribution of materials to start 1 million kitchen gardens across especially our urban areas that were hardest hit during the lockdown process. And this is something that we're also continuing to focus ourselves on, to also ensure that the urban working people are also able to be food secure in their respective areas. And this is a program that we're also looking at. We're also putting in place programs that will ensure that loss also occasioned by weather or disease-related shocks, we're also able to insure our farmers so that they are able to overcome the risks that sometimes occur as a result of unexpected shocks, either weather or disease related. And we're trying to move towards de-risking agriculture as well and making it a much more secure space where we can have a situation where our farmers are guaranteed their livelihoods. So Vera, in very brief, that's some of the things that we are doing towards ensuring that our country becomes both food and nutrition secure as we move towards the deadline that we've set for ourselves.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Technology, research, climate change is a challenge, but you have the solutions, and clearly the private sector with new financing mechanisms. My second question, the UN Food Systems Summit is an important opportunity to address multiple challenges across all 17 SDGs. What priorities would you be taking to the UN Food Systems Summit in New York in the next 2 weeks?
I said again earlier, I think the biggest thing we have, and one of the outcomes some of us are looking for from this current summit, is that we will be able to work together as Africa and to come up with common positions that we will be able to table at the UN Food Systems Summit that is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And I believe that if we are able to do that, we can probably work together to identify game-changing solutions to some of the challenges that we have in this sector, and also hopefully a series of national dialogues that will help us achieve and widen our food production systems, make available more digital agricultural solutions, and also how we can further push the digital agriculture through things like e-voucher programs, advisory services, market information systems, weather information systems, the development of commodity exchange across our continent, and also what I referred to earlier, which is the revitalization of our 4K clubs, which is a means of getting our young people to understand the value, the nobility, as I said earlier, of agriculture, but also the profitability of agriculture and the fact that it is in itself not only just a noble career, but a career in which you can make a very good livelihood for yourself through the use of technology and so on and so forth. I'm also very keen on the school feeding program that I said, and I hope that we can achieve some mileage in terms of ensuring that all our school-going children are able to do so on a full belly. That is critical, that is important, and I would like and really hope that we would be able to make some very, very good headway in a direction to ensure that we have access to nutritious food for our school children in their school days. I think finally is the issue of climate change, which is always around us, and its impact on our food systems, and how, again, we can work together as Africa, together with our international partners, to see how we can overcome the challenges of climate change and the effects of climate change, especially for those of us who are the least contributors, but the most affected. This is another area where I really hope that at the UN summit, we will be able to make some progress towards supporting our farmers in this critical area. So those again are some of the areas. Also, of course, is how we will all recover out of the COVID-19 pandemic, which, as I have said, has hit us all very hard, and how we will be able to work together, partner together to ensure that we are able to build back better post-COVID, and to ensure that the gains of the past are retained and greater headway even made based on the experiences that we have all had during this very unfortunate period of COVID.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think a lot of lessons there for many African countries to come and build on, particularly on technology and research. Climate change, particularly locusts, has affected East Africa and stunted our growth. So we do see the need for additional SDRs, I have to say this, as we get into the Food System Summit and ask for additional resources. Somebody who has been a constant advocate for food systems, who has demonstrated it in his own country, who has been an advocate in general for Africa coming together as one to speak in one voice for Africa's food systems, Africa's infrastructure, in fact, for Africa's independence, is the President of Rwanda, Your Excellency President Paul Kagame. I'm going to ask you two questions. My first question to you, as chair of AUDA NEPAD, how can food systems transformation contribute to building forward better from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and help us build momentum to achieve the SDGs by 2030?
Thank you, Vera. Excellencies, heads of state and government, former heads of state, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the UN Deputy UN Secretary General Amina Mohammed. First, I want to thank President Kenyatta for hosting the AGRF Summit. and to acknowledge the hard work of Dr. Kalibata and her team and the leadership of His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn as the chair of the AGRF Partners Group. Now to your question, food systems are key to achieving the SDGs. First of all, 70% of African adults work in agriculture and agribusiness. If they aren't doing well, then Africa isn't doing well. More than 35% of the world's hungry are in Africa. Clearly, we need a transformation in how our food systems are organized. We must also ensure that everyone has access to the food they need on an equitable and affordable basis. For Africa, this means importing less food because we are capable of growing more of what we consume here on our continent. We must take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area to trade the produce with one another. That is a big business opportunity for all of us. We also need to be frank that a fairer global trade regime for food products is necessary. There needs to be a level playing field. Food systems contribute around 1/3 of global carbon emissions. But the effects of climate change on rainfall patterns and desertification in Africa are already being felt. For Africa, the stakes are very high when it comes to climate change. Our continent's voice should be clearly heard at COP26 in November and beyond. The United Nations Food Systems Summit later this month is an opportunity to commit to the actions necessary to transform food systems in line with the SDGs. The African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, has facilitated an African common position in advance of the summit in line with Agenda 2063. Africa's solutions will be pursued in 5 tracks. 1, nutrition and school feeding. 2, supporting local markets and supply chains and trade within Africa. 3, increase financing for agriculture to 10% of public expenditure. 4, help smallholder farmers, especially women. And 5, expand social safety nets and climate early warning data systems. But we must bear in mind that success comes down to implementing these bold ideas, not just discussing them. We cannot afford business as usual when it comes to food systems and the livelihoods that depend on food production. Thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you productive deliberations throughout this summit. So waiting for your second question, Vera, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My second question will be around what you're planning to take to New York, but since you have answered some of that already, I'm going to push a little bit and ask you now about the financing. You talked about it as agriculture as a business. Agriculture is our largest private sector segment on the continent. You talked about it in supply chains. You talked about it on the AFCFTA. You talked about it in smallholder farmers. How do you think we can use the summit in New York to ensure that Africa gets the financing it needs to boost our private sector? We have seen Rwanda at the forefront of getting the private sector together to get the COVID-19 vaccines. What challenges do we need to lift and takeaway in New York so we can get that financing both for COVID, I go back to it, but also for our food systems. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think financing part of the whole issue has been discussed in many ways, from the G20 summits, from G20 compact with Africa to the institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, the African Development Bank, the different partner countries. We have been talking about the financing of the different efforts we have to undertake to have all these things brought together. In fact, that's how also we have arrived at, even if it is not enough, having the SDR's issue addressed, much as we are still saying it is not enough for Africa. It is enough, generally $650 billion, and part of that for Africa, 33 billion. We could still find other formulas to have more of that. And I think those discussions have been going on. So around the Food Systems Summit later this month, all we can do is bring all the information together, all the efforts that have been underway to better understanding and how to practically tap into the different resources. But all that depends on the political will, not only of some of those who hold the key to making those resources available, but also those in need, those of us in need, making the right demands and actually showing what it means to the benefit of all of us. So I think we just we've been talking, we've been discussing, we have information, we have everything before us. I think what we need to do now is to come up with concrete action and results that will allow us to continue moving forward the way we want. Thank you. You are muted, Vera, muted.
Sorry, thank you. We've never gotten over this yet. Thank you very much. A call for a practical approach, political will to those we will be talking to when we get to New York for the Food Systems Summit, and in particular making the right demands, particularly as you so eloquently combined the challenge on climate change and food security as one of the biggest challenges that Africa has as it tries to get to 2030. Thank you again, Your Excellency. I will now ask two questions to Your Excellency, President Lazarus Chakwera, the President of Malawi. Your Excellency, what have you learned from hosting the Food Systems Dialogue, and what are you planning to do differently to ensure that your country is on track to end hunger by 2030?
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government and former heads of state and government, and Deputy Secretary General of the UN. Let me first of all state that we have learned that food is a complex issue. It touches every aspect of human existence, from socioeconomics to culture. And as such, it requires collaborative and multi-stakeholder approach to ensure quality delivery, and in that matrix, the voice of the smallholder farmer must loom large. And secondly, we have learned that our food systems have key gaps and challenges that need to be addressed urgently to achieve the SDGs by 2030. And some of the examples: limited resilience to natural shocks, poor transport, processing and storage infrastructure, systemic market failures, increased energy demand vis-a-vis population growth, inadequate dietary diversification, and low productivity and production of nutritious food. And so in tackling these challenges, we are truly following new pathways in order that we might develop several homegrown solutions that incorporate the vast experience of our people, some of which are the following. We are now shifting gears away from dependence on the handhold farming and from dependence on maize for food. We now have a presidential delivery unit, PDU, in my office to push on all levers of the government system to deliver food security, which is one of the 3 key deliverables of our development agenda for Malawi. We now have a prioritization method for the country's key food systems, 2 to 3 of which are earmarked for short-term action over the next 2-3 years, so that those challenges can be adequately addressed. We are designing a long-term governance, coordination, and delivery platform to deliver food systems transformation towards the 2030 agenda. And we are reviewing our regulatory framework for land use to ensure that our laws support the effective use of our arable land through mechanization and irrigation farming and from climate change. We are turning our focus to the production of locally affordable food that enhance diversity, and we are conscientizing the whole nation to new forms and values aimed at reducing cultural practices that lead to food wastage and pollution. We have embarked on an ambitious logistical and technological infrastructure development program to create the needed hardware and software for a robust food system. So we are actually supporting households exposed to shocks such as COVID-19 and floods with surplus food that we realize from our Affordable Inputs program that has bolstered our food system with greater capacity for food production. So our expectation is that these new pathways will be benchmarked by policy coherence within our own Malawi 2063 vision. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Again, coming back to the right policy environment, and of course, one of those is making sure that women have access to land. We have been working very closely with your government on that and with all the other governments, and clearly it is one way of solving and beginning to answer some of the food systems problems. Question number 2, the UN Food Systems Summit is an important opportunity to address multiple challenges across all the 17 SDGs. What priorities will you be taking to the UN Food Systems Summit in New York in 2 weeks' time?
And so, as I have stated already, what we are really wanting to bring to New York is our resolve to shift gears so that we're able to have the needed support in terms of agricultural production, so that we can mechanize and we can also commercialize, and in terms of making sure that all that we do, whether we are on the ground tilling the fields, that we want to be food secure, and we want to sense that we are a population that is feeding on the right kind of food. Diversified diets are a product of locally made solutions involving the local population, which is the highest population in the rural areas, as well as food suppliers to the urban centers. And we want to be able then to get involved in ambitious technological infrastructure, like we have the Shared Valley Transformation Project, which will be involved in big production using the waters that we have, because that is a place that is prone to drought. And so we feel that with all of this and with all the support of the region as well as Africa as a whole, and with all of the trading that we're able to do amongst ourselves, we should be able to really be food secure because we have systems that are supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Rwanda, Kenya, and Malawi are all countries that have begun to create food commodity exchanges in the past. We hope that together we can increase on that and ensure that there are better food systems on the continent. Today, Africa is a net importer to the tune of about $81 billion of food. And by 2030, we will be importing about $115 billion. It is not bad per se that we're importing food, but we should not be importing food we can produce. My next question is going to go to Namibia to ask how can we do this differently? How can we ensure that the food we produce, we can consume on the continent and export as well, and not only become net food exporters, but actually tackle the issue of hunger? Your Excellency, is Namibia? Yes, Your Excellency, President Hage Geingob, good to see you. Hunger has increased across the continent. How will Namibia tackle the issue of hunger? And what have you learned from the food systems thinking that you have led in Namibia recently? How can that help you to change your thinking and processes on the issue?
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Since independence, given our comprehensive social safety net programs, more than 500,000 Namibians have been lifted out of severe poverty. During this administration's first term in office, the food bank program was rolled out across all regions, reaching 42,081 Namibians, while the drought relief program reached over 2.8 million Namibians cumulatively. During this period, no Namibian was reported to have died from hunger, despite the country enduring one of the worst droughts in recent history. According to the October 2020 Socio-Economic Impact Assessment of COVID-19 in Namibia, overall poverty is expected to increase by an estimated 4.2% as a result of loss of income. Buys and convert the food bank and special feeding scheme for marginalized communities into monthly cash transfer as a first step to phase in a conditional basic income grant. It is a call for us to come in with a basic income grant, universal basic income grant. But I'm not agreeing with that because I don't think a person who is a billionaire and a poor person must be given the same amount. So while this call is on, I'm talking about conditional basic income grant. To complement the above social safety net program, Namibia will promote and facilitate the infusion of private strategic investment into the agricultural sector. This ambition will contribute to the national goals of bolstering food security and self-sufficiency. These schemes hold the potential to unlock the production of high-value crops, contribute to the export market demands, while creating thousands of jobs. And thank you for that question.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Using nature-based solutions to ensure that we can improve on food systems and tackle hunger. The second question is the same question I've been asking. The UN Food System Summit is an important opportunity to address the multiple challenges across all 17 SDGs. What priorities would you be taking to the UN Food System Summit in New York in 2 weeks' time that can address this issue, particularly coming from a part of the world where inequality is quite high, and we know that food systems and food availability is one of the issues?
Thank you. Namibia is a small open economy that is susceptible to independent intervening variables, including climate change and its disruptive consequences. Namibia experiences recurrent droughts, of which the most recent have been recorded as the worst in the history. Therefore, Namibia must craft climate change-related solutions as it looks to holistically combat malnutrition and inequality. To do so, Namibia has established a green economic recovery plan, as has been envisioned in June 2021 by African heads of state during the launch of the African Union Continental Green Recovery Action Plan. Our ambitious plans to develop a green and blue economy, as articulated under the Economic Advancement Pillar of our Harambee Prosperity Plan 2, is hinged on our ability to work with global and continental partners to capture our world-class renewable energy resource and utilize it to produce green hydrogen. The emissions-free hydrogen will be converted into ammonia, which is a key building block for various fertilizer products. Locally produced zero-emissions fertilizer can be used to provide a fertile opportunity for local and regional sustainable economic development, and will meaningfully contribute to a global effort to decarbonize our economies while augmenting Africa's ambitions to attain zero hunger. This new clean synthetic fuels industry has the potential to double our GDP, create employment for thousands of Namibians, and importantly, contribute to a cleaner and more sustainable home for our children and our children's children. Environment, hunger, and equity are indeed intricately linked and must be tackled concurrently. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that fantastic answer. Indeed, the Economic Commission for Africa with Oxford University have just finished a series of studies that show that the green recovery stands to provide over somewhere between 420% value added, 320% more jobs in many of African economies as we move towards a just and equitable transition and provide a strengthening of our food systems. My second question to you, Your Excellency, again, same question. The UN Food System Summit is an important opportunity to address the multiple challenges. No, I think I gave you that, across all of the 17 SDGs. Sorry, I think I have already asked you that question. I'm moving now to President of Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni. Your Excellency, welcome and good to have you. You personally convened and presided over the National Food Systems Dialogue. Your government identified changes needed in the agriculture sector, but also health, environment, finance, and trade as areas where you can tackle the national food systems. How will you take the momentum from these dialogues and translate them into actions across your government? How can this work help catch up on the SDGs by 2030?
Excellencies, heads of state, and former heads of state, and the Secretary General, Under Secretary General of the UN, I thank His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta for organizing this conference and inviting us. I also thank former Prime Minister Haile Mariam. I don't like to answer this issue just by giving one point. I think the issue of food production, of food systems, is a multidimensional one. And I have listed 15 points here. Number one, improved seeds. Fortunately, in Uganda, we have the research institutions, and they have handled the issue of the improved seeds for many of the crops. Secondly, improved agro practices. The practices which can be done to farm by contours, to dig trenches so that you retain water, and so on. Number three, storage. Storing what you have produced. Number four, post-harvest handling. Good post-harvest handling. Number five, improved agricultural machinery instead of using the hoe, the hand hoe. Number six, transport, the roads, the railway systems. Number seven, irrigation, to make sure that the production is stable. You don't have production this year and then next year it collapses. Number eight, the issue of markets. Uganda does not have, we don't have a problem of food shortage. We don't import any food. On the contrary, we have got big surpluses of foods, of maize, of bananas, of milk, of beef. So I would like the African continent, and some of the presidents, His Excellencies have talked about it, the market, because the farmers will produce more reliably and better if they know that what they produce will get a market. But sometimes, because of the fragmented African markets, some of the food surplus countries sometimes do not easily get markets. Then the use of fertilizers. There is, in the case of Uganda, we have got we use very little fertilizers in spite of producing big quantities. So you can imagine how much more would produce. Like, for instance, the farmers have been producing 5.3 tons per hectare of bananas in the villages. But in the government center, where we have used irrigation and fertilizers, we are producing 53 tons, 53 point something tons per hectare. So you can see almost 10 times when you do the right things. Then the issue of the crop, livestock, diseases, pests, and vermin. The issue of crop, livestock, diseases, pests, and vermin. Then number 11, the issue of soil mapping, mapping the soil so that you know which soil is where and what you need to do about it. In the case of Uganda, we have had for some time the issue of land fragmentation on account of inheritance. The traditional inheritance, you find the land was 3 acres. When the elder died, he divided it up. This is now half an acre. Once it is half an acre per homestead, the economics changes. So here we are struggling with that issue of land fragmentation also. Then the problem of overfishing in some of the lakes, like Lake Victoria, overfishing, which damages the fish stocks. But you need energy. If the agricultural sector is growing like it has been in Uganda, you need electricity to be able to process what you are producing. Now, in the case of Uganda, we don't have food shortage, but we have food insecurity in some groups because they don't have income to buy the food, especially the ones in the towns. So this one also ties up with the issue which some of the excellencies were talking about, maybe having to have school feeding paid for by the government, to expand jobs so that everybody gets a job and can be able to buy food for himself, or some other social support actions. So with these efforts, we are sure to have, for us, we have enough food. Uganda has never had shortage of food. On the contrary, we have surplus. But I am sharing this, and we can produce more, but I am sharing all this so that we can see how we can harmonize, have the same thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think you have summarized almost all the points that the different leaders have had in a very detailed and itemized manner. So I will not go and I wouldn't ask you a second question if you permit, but one thing that you brought up was price and inflation pressures because of the food systems and how we can bring that down with school feeding programs. Very important point. I'm going to go now to Tanzania, and I'm going to ask the generic question to Your Excellency. In Tanzania, as Tanzania plans and is preparing for the UN Food Systems Summit, what is Tanzania planning to take to the UN Food Systems Summit in New York in 2 weeks as your key priorities?
Well, Vera, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I wish first to recognize Their Excellencies, heads of state and government present. Straight to the question, there are a number of priority areas that we wish to indeed take to the summit on the 23rd of September in New York. One, basically along the lines that His Excellency President Museveni just outlined, the issue of how we leverage technology to deal with or be able to leapfrog on areas of low production and productivity, basically in both crop and livestock and fisheries subsectors. And indeed, issues around seed and animal breed, the quality of fingerlings, how we deal with pest management, irrigation infrastructure, and so forth. So that is one. But second, I think it is important that we take to New York the issue of agricultural financing, and particularly given the very high risk of rain-fed agriculture. Of course, our own development banks, like what we have in Tanzania, the Tanzania Agricultural Development Bank is inadequate. We will need also to tap into regional banks, the African Development Bank and the like. But indeed, pushing forward the SDR proposal, I think is key. But another area still on the financing, I think we'll have to really push on financing climate change mitigation and adaptation measures, and including how we safeguard biodiversity. So these, I think, are really critical issues that we need to push in New York. Thank you. Lost.
That's the 10th. I think we have a connection technology thingy there, ladies and gentlemen, but let's applaud the heads of state who have had a fantastic conversation. Thank you very much. Excellencies from across the continent, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in New York in 2 weeks' time. whether I'm invited or not. Would you like concluding remarks, Dr. Kalibata? Anyone to conclude? It's just the connection that just with Dr. Vera and Dr. Vera Songwe, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give her a round of applause as well. Thank you, Dr. Vera. I didn't cut you off, I promise you. It's technology. So, from the presidents setting the pace, and they said all the right things and literally on the same page, let's go on to the great debate. This is where in my program I would be saying, welcome back. So, from the presidents, from the policy aspect to the multilaterals, we're going to go straight to, I believe, it is Rome, where we find my good friend, His Excellency Gilbert Umbo. He is the president of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. If you can hear me, Mr. President, thanks so much for your time. When we talk about building back better, there you are, Mr. President, thank you. Building back better, and you heard the presidents there saying the right things. Can we be able to, are we going to be able to build back better, sir?
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
We can, sir.
You know, being an eternal optimist, my answer to you is yes. I believe we will be able to build back better, but at what cost? It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a bumping road. But with the level of political commitment, as we just heard, and our head of states, that gives me even much more impetus and much more determination that we shall. We know particularly that our small-scale producers in Africa are resilient communities, and therefore we need to work around that. But to build back better, it's going to be important that the action that we want to follow up after the Food System Summit, the coalitions that we are talking about, the push that we are hearing from the head of state on a different dimension, we will need to focus on that and working with the national authorities together for us to be able to do that. In fine, it's going to request or require from all of us along the chain, from the scientific to the multilateral, to the national government, to the UN system, as well as the international financing. One point that I wanted to really highlight, at the end of the day, is going to be, let's face it, money. So we will really need to be innovative in how to create innovative financing to be able to continue assisting in a pragmatic way our government and our communities. Over.
Absolutely, Mr. President. Just hold that thought. I'll get back to you in a moment. Let me go to Ambassador Josefa Sako. She's with the African Union. Ambassador Sako, if you can hear me, what are the major food systems initiatives that the African Union has been driving? And what do you believe will be the big game changer for this continent? Ambassador Josefa, if you can hear me. If not, then we can go straight to Sven Tor Holstetter. If you can hear me, you're the President and Chief Executive Officer of Yara. Thank you, Sven, for your time. The big game changer on this continent, your thoughts about that. What is it going to take to turn this around?
Well, thanks, Jeff. Great to see you again. And Your Excellencies, heads of state, former heads of state, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen and friends, it's a great pleasure to be here. And thanks for the innovation. I think if I was going to answer this in one word, it would be technology. But allow me to broaden that a bit. And from the business side, the first question that we would ask is there or will there be a market? And when it comes to Africa and food, yes, there's a tremendous market. Look at the imports. We have already heard talking about more than $40 billion of food imports going into Africa, money leaving the continent, and that's a market that is there, and it's local. So it's about how do we address that, and here I think technology is a key enabler of that. And over the last year, the use of technology has surpassed all expectations. And for us in Yara as well, the COVID-19 pandemic has become a catalyst for our engagement with even more rural communities in East Africa through the initiative that we call Action Africa. And through that initiative, we have donated 40,000 tons of premium fertilizer to 7 countries in East Africa, and we helped with that quality input and agronomic advice the maize farmers to triple their yields in the first year. So in the first harvest, triple the yield, and the impact of that from these farmers is additional food, enough to provide food for 1 million people for a whole year. So through the use of technology in Action Africa, we were able to digitally trace fertilizer from port all the way to the rural farmers, which is the first. And we worked with several partners, the World Food Program, to make this happen, and we were able to reach many smallholder farmers, many of them women, in the most remote locations. And with that as a basis, we have now launched a platform called Africa Connect. This platform, Africa Connect, has 4,000 retailers and 2 million farmers in Tanzania and Kenya. And that ecosystem brings together several digital services and sources of knowledge, and opening up new opportunities for farmers so that they get the knowledge that they need on inputs, on farm, on weather for their farm, and getting access to agronomic expertise. And we're now also opening up that for external parties as well, because at the end of the day, no one is going to be able to do this alone. It's only through partnerships that we can achieve that, working together with governments, with farmers and others, in order to help to increase productivity and turn this into an opportunity. So I think we can bring scale to reach Africa's digital ambition. We've been investing in the continent for decades. We're ready to invest more. It's happening now. It is just a start, but I'm very hopeful, Jeff.
Absolutely, Sven. Thanks so much. Hold that thought right there as I invite Dr. Hajia Salamatu Garba. I know she's in-house. If you can just come on the stage, Dr. Garba. And as you do that, do we have Ambassador Josepha Sako? Is she on? Ambassador Josepha Sako, if you can hear me. We're talking about the African Union. If you can hear me, what is the African Union initiatives?
I can hear you.
There you go. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ambassador. The initiatives being driven by the African Union. You heard the heads of state there talking. You heard the passion and their vision. The AU. What are the initiatives it's driving?
Thank you very much, Jeff, for giving me the floor. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our head of state and members of the government, the head of the government, as well as former head of state. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my sister, Amina Mohamed, the Deputy Secretary General of the UN. And I will answer straight to your question. In terms of African Union, as we are all aware, we have our flagship program, which is the CADEP Malabo Declaration. This flagship program is ensuring on the Agenda 2063. And we have our head of states really making a diagnosis of this important department, which is agriculture. And I quite agree with all the positions that, we have to really make sure that during the summit, the Food System Summit, we bring out all the challenges and solutions. And some of our head of states raised the issue of finance. Finance is very important. We know that in 2003, in Maputo Declaration in Mozambique, our head of state committed themselves for 10% to invest at least 10% in agriculture. And up to now, many countries are not compiling with it. We have our biannual review report that we do every 2 years, the biannual review report. And when we go to those analysis of all the indicators, very few African countries are investing in agriculture. That is really an area that we need to correct. We are not talking about, asking an investor to come and invest. We are talking about our public expenditure to spend it in agriculture, because it's a very important sector. So this is a part of our commitment also in Malabo Declaration, the 7th commitment that our head of state brought on.
Okay.
We are talking here.
Okay, Ambassador, thank you. Yeah, hold that thought for a moment, if you don't mind. Dr. Hajia Salamatu Garba, the Executive Director, founder of WOFAN. Do you like what you're hearing from the heads of state, from the multilaterals? Do you like what you're hearing?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I'm happy, and listening to them gives me the confidence that our heads of state, our policymakers, our funders, they know exactly what the problems are. They know the answers, but they need to improve in listening and acting. What we need is an action for the rural women. What we need is an ear for them. And we need to know that the population of Africa is increasing, and the size of our land is decreasing, not to talk of climate change biting hard. This means that we are in serious problem. It means we have to rethink agriculture, like they have narrated. If we need to do that, it means that it has to be holistic. The women cannot do it alone, although the women, they say, are the backbone. I say they are the neck. They carry the head and the body of Africa. It means we need to support them holistically. And we must not forget the youth. The male youth also are supportive. So it's women and youths all together. Because you don't run with one leg and win the race. Africa is in the race to salvage the situation. So we need them to support us. And I will wind off by talking about innovation in our financing system. We are calling for investment support. We are calling for financial institutions to assist, but we need to be creative and encourage them. You will all agree with me that the policy is not friendly. It means that these institutions need to be brought on board, so we discuss with them and they understand the enabling environment for the rural populace. And then the starter packs for rural women and youth is not friendly. Are we really supporting innovation platform for the rural people? We need to be creative about business. I give an example of WOFAN. The pregnant woman I saw, if you Google the logo of WOFAN, got me into this business 28 years ago. We were 28. We started today. We are 1,350,000, broken into structural groups, and now we carry the value chain from seed to table. We have Taurarua rice and the groundnut. We didn't stop there. The rice and groundnut, we've put them together to make flour. We didn't stop there. The flour we're using to produce food, including nutritious food for our babies, because you know if you blend groundnut and rice, you are going to give food that is going to address malnutrition. And it created demand-driven. And not to stop at that, we are giving back, that is backward integration. The husk is used for briquetting, therefore reducing the emission of carbon. It means there's a lot of creativity. Now, before he stops me, I know he's preparing to do that, may I quickly tell you that if you want to drag private sector to invest, you have to be creative. Let me tell you one example of what we've done, Your Excellencies and our great policy makers. We gave women power tillers, for instance, as start-off, because we cannot afford tractors. And they are saving 50% of what they are paying when they are using manually and what they are using when they transplant manually. We gave them transplanter. That saving, we supported them to put in the bank. In 4 months, the group, because 30 women per group and 5 groups make a cluster. In 4 months, we raised enough money to buy another power tiller, which means in 1 year, they can pay for 3 power tillers. And now the banks are chasing after us to give us loan. So we've been creative in the method that we use to attract the investors. So I call on my heads of state, all the policy people, all the donors out there to support the women. Let's be creative about whatever we do. Africa needs to rely on agriculture. If agriculture fails, nothing else is going to go right. Not even politics and not even marriage. Thank you.
Dr. Hajia Salamatu Garba, my goodness, I could listen to you all day, honestly. I could. Real quick, explain what WOFAN is. Just explain for those who don't know, real quick. Not too long, huh? Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I thought I was not going to be given the time, so I skipped my name and my organization because I prioritized. So thank you very much. The Women Farmers Advancement Network is what WOFAN is, and please Google WOFAN. What happened was, on this fateful day, I was a lecturer in the university, and I'm 28 years, like I said, in the business. I'm a plant pathologist and a gender development specialist. But what really got me into this, that day when I went out with my students to the farm, I saw this woman in her last stage of pregnancy with a baby on her back, load on her head, and she was carrying some load with her, and I stopped to ask her, and she came from my village, an area where women don't have a voice. I just happened to be one of those fortunate women that her father knows the value of education and took me out to school. And when I looked at her situation and compared with in that stage, I knew what it was. But when I asked her why she was doing that to herself, she told me that, don't you know that the life of a woman is all about being pregnant, giving birth, and being subservient to the man? That was her answer. I felt so sad about it. To cut the story short, I went with her home and promised her anytime I was passing that community, I would visit her. 3 weeks after, I did, and I was told she died in pregnancy and giving birth during childbirth. So since then, it has been like I'm looking for this woman to provide a solution. Today, we are 1,350,000 women farmers, and we have a few male with us, but I'm still searching. It's like I need to get this woman. So what we do is we take the value chain all along, and the women produce. Now the women use technology. Program, and I'm the lead consultant for that project. Thank you.
You said UNDP and Jeff's program. No, it's okay, it's okay. Let me quickly go around a bit. Gilbert Umbo, if you're still with us at IFAD in Rome, you heard what Dr. Garba has just said. Is this encouraging, sir? Is this encouraging going forward?
Yeah, of course, not only is encouraging, but it's saddening to first of all know the wake-up call that she was referring to. Unfortunately, those are not isolated cases. This is what we see on the ground. That's why, if I can quickly add, we have to keep in mind that 80% of the whole world poor, and Africa is not exception, the whole world poor live in the rural area. And the women and the girls are more on the front line when it comes to the impact, and let alone the current COVID and the extreme weather condition. So if our program are kind of better tailor-made and targeting the women, targeting the poorest community in the poorest area. So it's what I'm trying to say here. One of the concerns that I had last year is all intervention trying to be limited at the macro level, at the national level, with the risk of creating, again, or encouraging and willingly the growing inequalities, again, within our countries. But the hope is that more and more all of us are conscious of that and pushing for much more investment in the rural area, in the women, and in the. We just came back. I think Vera and I were in Rotterdam 2 days ago on the adaptation side, and the impact of the adaptation in the rural affecting the women is also another huge dimension that comes to play. My call, I remain very optimistic. Let's be very clear. However, we have to intentionally target the rural communities in all our countries. All our the excellencies that are spoken, I'm sure they will relate to it. So when you look at, and I believe Ambassador Sako also referred to that, when you look at how our countries are pushing to implement the CAREP and are really pushing to have a very specific action, that's where the hope comes from. My last point is that I believe that hope will also come from how our countries will be responding to the Food System Summit by having at the national level either the existing plan that is adjusted according to the outcome of the Food System Summit, or a new plan if it's not yet there. And in that one, I cannot insist enough, and is looking at the poor and the smallholders. But by doing that, it is also important to look at it in the whole chain. And I really appreciate what the CEO of Yara was saying in terms of technology, bringing the what I call affordable and available technology for those smallholders. We got to improve the productivity. We got to improve the productivity and helping them to have more stability in terms of minimum income from their produce. So the whole insurance dimension that a colleague from Africa Risk Capacity are working on, having this scheme which allow the coffee producers or the quinoa producers to have a minimum income, living income from what they produce. That's where I believe the hope is coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Sven Tore Holseter, you've heard everyone speaking literally the same language, but it comes down to affordable technology. And you mentioned that. As President and CEO of Yara, can we even the playing field? I guess that's the phrase I'm looking for. Can we even that playing field?
Yes, I think we can, and technology can help us to do that, because keep in mind what the technology enables now through either smartphones or even regular phones with SMS messaging. We can make information available to smallholder farmers in rural areas that in the past would only be possible to get access to for big, huge commercial scale farms. So it is possible, but then we need to create a system around that enables it to be adopted as well. And then we're back to how do we raise the attraction of agriculture, and I was very pleased by several of the remarks earlier in these sessions on the urgency and the need to raise the status of agriculture, to get past some of the historic perceptions of what agriculture is and can be. I believe, and I've said this for a number of years now, and I'm completely convinced that the agri-food sector is the sector for creating new business opportunities in Africa. And I also think that engaging the youth in that transformation and revolution, it will be key because of their ability to implement new ways of farming, of adapting technology and so on. So it's about reaching them. And this is something I've discussed for many years together with Gilbert and also with my friends, dear friends, Dr. Agnes Kalibata and with Strai Masiva. How do we get that message out to the youth? And what we came up with was that let's launch a prize to celebrate and also communicate technology in agriculture, and that's what's now Generation Africa, the Go Get Us finalists, and we saw from quite a few of them earlier today, and it's amazing to see what these young entrepreneurs are doing in terms of new technologies and new business models to drive this. And we've been able to reach millions of young Africans to convey the message of the business opportunity, and these are some of them. And I really believe that we can do even more. I'm so incredibly impressed when I see the young people out there starting and growing their own businesses in the middle of the pandemic, and these innovators are the real heroes, and they need and deserve our support. They're the real key to job creation in Africa, and through that we will have more empowerment, we will have more opportunities. So I also, just like you, Gilbert, I'm an optimist, but we also have to be realistic with the challenges and work systematically and think full value chains, create that transparency, the traceability to make all this visible, so that we reach also the rural smallholder farmers and the women. That I took a lot of notes in that intervention, because there's definitely a need and a lot that we need to do to address that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ven, for that, and thanks so much, everyone. Ambassador Joseph Asako, we'll get back to you in the next segment when we come to the awards. Thank you, Dr. Garba, very much. Thank you, everyone in this segment. As you, well done, well done. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. She deserves, yeah. And as we end this segment, I'd like you to turn your attention to the videos that we just got a short while ago from Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank. Take a listen.
Your Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, my dear brother, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here with you today at this Africa Green Revolution Forum 2021. I wish to congratulate AGRA and Agnes Kalibata, President of AGRA, for convening this event. This event is holding just a few weeks ahead of the United Nations Food Systems Summit. It is time to consolidate how we will amplify a collective voice of Africa to the world, and to ensure that the Food Systems Summit is a success for the world and a success for Africa. To fully unlock the potential of agriculture in Africa, we must prioritize a few things. We must raise agricultural productivity for our farmers. We must ensure that agricultural value chains are well developed and well integrated. We must build climate resilience to climatic shocks. We must modernize food and food supply systems. And we must develop infrastructure and logistics systems for food supply. And we must boost private sector food and agribusinesses to produce healthy, nutritious, and affordable food. We must also tackle malnutrition, and stunting that are pervasive on the continent. Malnourished children today will lead to malnourished economies tomorrow. Your Excellencies, I wish to now touch on three issues. First, technologies. Second, climate resilience. And third, financing. Your Excellencies, the technologies to feed Africa exist, and rapid successes have been achieved, which as leaders you should be aware of, and which you should help to amplify at the United Nations Food Systems Summit. First, technologies. Since the African Development Bank launched its Feed Africa strategy in 2015, over 74 million people have benefited from access to improved agricultural technologies. Our flagship program called Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, or TAT, has provided 11 million farmers in Africa across 29 countries with new agricultural technologies. Second, climate resilience. We must build climate resilience for Africa on agriculture. We are also making great progress. Today, through TAT, heat-tolerant varieties of wheat are being grown on close to 1.8 million hectares in Ethiopia, Sudan, and 6 other countries. Drought-tolerant maize is being grown now by 5.2 million households on 840,000 hectares in Southern Africa. Through the Adaptation Acceleration Program for Africa, the African Development Bank and the Global Center for Adaptation plans to provide digital climatic advisory services for over 40 million farmers. We need more resources to support climate adaptation in Africa. Third, financing. We must deliver food security for Africa at greater scales. And for that, Africa needs a lot of financing. Your Excellencies, the most critical issue for Africa at the Food Systems Summit is to have more resources to support and scale up what is working in Africa. In April of this year, the African Development Bank and the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, convened a high-level dialogue on feeding Africa, which was attended by 11 African heads of state and government and global leaders, under the chairmanship of President Felix Tshisekedi, chairperson of the African Union. At the meeting, African and global leaders agreed to put in place the Facility for Financing Food and Nutrition in Africa. The target of the facility is $1 billion. We should ensure that this facility is established as the major outcome for Africa at the United Nations Food Systems Summit. The facility will allow Africa to reach 40 million farmers with modern technologies, double the yields of major crops, produce 100 million metric tons of food. That's going to be enough to feed an additional 200 million people, and reduce the incidence of hunger and malnutrition in Africa by 10 to 20%. Given its critical importance for Africa, we request Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, to please include your strong support for the establishment of the Facility for Financing Food and Nutrition in Africa in your speeches at the summit.
That's, thank you. That's Dr. Akumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank. Dr. Kalibat, $1 billion, that's it. Just $1 billion. That's all. I'm sure this room is enough to finance that. If you look around this room, $1 billion. Wow. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on to the fun part of the evening. Jacques, do you have a sting? Thank you. This is the awards part, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. And like Dr. Garba said a moment ago, women are not just the backbone, but the neck. Great expression, but the neck. So we'll start with women. And we call this the Value for Her Women Agripreneurs of the Year Award. And to summarize it all, I'm going to invite back Ambassador Josepha Sako from the African Union to walk us through this Women Agripreneurs Award of the Year. Ambassador Sako, you have the floor. Ambassador, if you can hear me, yep, floor is yours.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
I can hear you, yeah. Thank you very much, Jeff, for giving me the floor back again. Excellencies, Head of State and Government in attendance, Excellencies, former Head of State, Deputy SG of UN, my sister Amina Mohamed, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. I'm extremely delighted and honored today to make this statement at the Value for Her Women Agripreneurs of the Year Awards 2021, instituted by AGRA to celebrate women doing exemplary work in agriculture. I'm particularly thrilled that these change makers are women of Africa, our sisters from Africa, amazing women who have demonstrated rare diligence, innovation, and resilience in transforming African food security through their agribusinesses in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic. I seize this opportunity to thank my sister, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, the president of AGRA, AGRA in general, and its partners for their continued support to the African Union agenda on women in agriculture and agribusiness. Notably, women account for approximately 33% of the agricultural labor force in developing countries. Furthermore, women account for 50% of agricultural labor force in most Eastern and Southern African regions or countries. Despite women's dominance and significant contribution towards agribusiness activity, the productivity divide between men and women farmers persists across the African continent. African women farmers have been reported to receive poor harvest and compensation from agricultural activity due to no fault of their own, but pervasive gender inequality. It was so said by Dr. Garba that really raised that we should give special attention to women in agriculture. From low level of access to productive resources such as land, finance, capital, to care burden that exacerbates their poverty, to the historical low literacy due to lack of access to school or education, and the challenges for women are really enormous. And we need to really raise this cluster of the population and empower those women. COVID-19 and the disproportionate impact on women makes a clear case of leveling the field for women in agriculture, calling to action the need for additional measures to reinforce their capacity to cope, recover, and build resilience in future shocks. This is why I have advocated for a policy on women in agriculture in Africa. We are going to have the Day of Women, Rural Women on the 15th of October next month, and we are going to start really looking at on the way forward to elaborate a policy for women in agriculture. We have got already the platform. We created it during the Bubutu Lasso when we said that we have to mechanize agriculture. Our head of states, our leaders have already focused on the mechanization. So we did it in 2019 because there was a decision of head of states in Africa during the Johannesburg summit, head of state summit in 2015, where we launched a campaign to confine the handhold in the museum. So we have already launched this campaign, and we have a women in agriculture platform that we want to institutionalize. We wanted to start it from last year. Unfortunately, COVID did not allow us to proceed. So against all these odds, women continue to soldier on food production, building their enterprises, leading innovation, running their homes, feeding their families, contributing to their community and our continent in general. Today, we celebrate 3 women. They're going to celebrate 3 women in agribusiness who are changing the narrative, scaling the heights of agri-entrepreneurship, and having a meaningful impact on the communities. They have developed a wide network of suppliers who are women and vulnerable smallholder farmers who will normally not be reached if this organization was not created. Their business are value-oriented, serving a need that goes beyond the profit motive. This is remarkable and worthy of emulation. The value for her nomination process was very, very rigorous, with a panel of very competent judges drawn from industry leaders. Please allow me to acknowledge and thank the judges. There are Madam Irene Ocean, she's the Executive Director of IWIF, Madam Betty, apologies for the pronunciation of your name, Madam Betty Kiplagat, Government and Industry Affairs Leaders, Corteva, Madam Esther Dasanu, Manager of Afawa ADB, Jos Matu, Executive Director of Aqua and Comfort Ajoye Jenin, Executive Director of IWEP. And now to the moment we have all been waiting for the new nominees. Please allow me to unveil the Value for Her Women Entrepreneur of the Year Award winner 2021. Let me begin by congratulating all the contestants who are winners. The second runner-up for our year 2021 is Madam Linda Kudakwashi Manyeza. She's a founding director of Food Master in South Africa.
All right. Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. Congratulations, Linda Kudakwashe Manyeza, Food Master South Africa. And I'd like to ask Professor Margaret Kobia, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service and Gender, to come and present the award. Welcome, Waziri. Congratulations. Congratulations. Let's give them a round of applause again. Go on. Go on. Congratulations. Well done. Linda Kudakwashe Manyeza gets a $5,000 second runner-up award. Ambassador Josefa, okay, who's the first runner-up? Go ahead.
The first one runner-up is Madame Beatrice Nkata Munyi.
That's right, Beatrice Nkata Munyi, Sorghum Pioneer Agencies, Kenya. Round of applause, there you go. Well done, congratulations. Beatrice's runner-up award is worth $7,000 US. Congratulations. Congratulations. One moment, please. All right, Ambassador Josefa, who is the overall winner of the Yara Award? Go ahead. We can't wait.
The overall winner of the Yara Value for Her Award 2021 is nothing that our big sister, Dr. Aja Salumata Garba. Congratulations,
right.
founder and executive director of Women Farmers Advancement.
All
Congratulations.
Right. Congratulations, Dr. Garba. And that overall award worth $10,000 US. Congratulations once again, Dr. Garba. Congratulations to all the winners. Professor Kobe, would you like to say a word or two about the winners? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations to all the winners. Professor Kobe.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me say my warm congratulations to the ladies who have really gotten this recognition and award. And the two, I say the award and recognition matters. It matters because the women who have achieved this award have got an extra mile. Through that journey, I'm sure they have lessons that could improve and make a big impact on women in agribusiness. I do realize Value for Her promotes women in agribusiness, and when we are told almost 50% of women who are in agriculture, they make a huge contribution to economic development of our countries. My point number 3, I think as we have listened to challenges that women or in agriculture in general, I think we have come to the conclusion that problems are already known. They are already being addressed on. But it's through this kind of award, innovation, research, and data that we all know how we really making progress. So this measurement where we have the 3 ladies win these awards goes to just make that statement. Finally, you also know that political support and leadership is very critical. I'm not shy to say our President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has been very, very supportive, especially in women in business and in women who are in all spheres, and especially women who are identifying opportunities, going further to exploit and make it a business. Because the whole complete value chain gives us an opportunity as women to make contribution. Finally, let me say, this is not my kind of original idea, but have heard from Belinda Gates say, if you pull out women who are 50%, you pull them out of poverty, they will also pull the other 50% out of poverty, because our enemy is poverty. I thank you.
Professor Margaret Kobia, thank you so much. She's the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service and Gender. If you pull 50% out of poverty, they'll pull out the other 50%. Well done. Very well put. Okay, congratulations to all the winners. Well done. The next category, we call it the Go-Getters Agricultural Prize. And in recognition of the winners of 2021, take a look at this videotape.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen. We're really excited to now announce the winners of the Generation Africa Go-Getters Agripreneur Prize. When I watched the pitches by this year's 14 Go Get Us finalists, I was so impressed. I mean, the dedication, the passion, and the drive to develop businesses really impressed me. And you did that even in the midst of the pandemic. So a big congratulations to all of you. The two top grand prize winners will each receive $50,000 and also support to continue to drive their businesses. And we will also announce 4 Go Get Us Impact Award winners who will each receive $2,500. Just like last year, the judges looked at 5 criteria, all equally weighted. It's based on innovation, business model, it's about market potential and traction, social and environmental impact, and the leadership and management team. A big thank you also to all our partners who have contributed to the Generation Africa vision, including my friend, AGRF President, Dr. Agnes Kalibata. We are also joined by Generation Africa co-founder and former AGRA chair and friend, Strive Masiyiwa, today, and you will hear from him in just a moment. Strive has been incredibly busy serving as the African Union Special Envoy for the COVID response for more than a year now. But I know that he never stops thinking about ways to support young African entrepreneurs to develop their businesses. And this has probably never been more important than right now. And for her part, Dr. Kalibata has taken on a very important role to shape the future of the food systems, where she's serving now in the role as the United Nations Special Envoy for the Food Systems Summit. Thank you so much to both of you for being here today, and I'll now pass over to you, Agnes.
Thank you, Shintori, and indeed inspire them we have. If you missed seeing the pitch competition earlier today, you will be able to go online and watch the show on Strive's Facebook page and the Go-Getters Facebook page. I know many entrepreneurs have joined the AGRF website this week and have participated in the deal room just to be part of this competition. I know you may not have been this year's winner, but I want to assure you that we celebrate you in every way. You are the future of food, and we are happy that you participated in this competition. So therefore, you too are a winner. Without further ado, let me start us off by announcing the 4 Go-Getters Impact Award winners for this year that will each receive $2,500. Impact areas that judges looked at include rural livelihoods and nutrition, climate and technology, gender, and job creation. The 2 female Go-Getters Impact Award winners for 2021 are Philly Keita, co-founder and CEO of Agro Women in Mali. Agro Women is a local cereal and oilseeds processing startup which partners with women farmers, cooperatives, helping them link to markets for their products. Agro Women empowers rural women across the country. Felicitatio Philly. The second female winner is Diane Orembo, co-founder and CEO of Novfeed, Tanzania. Diane and her startup agritech company have developed chemical-free biotechnology to recycle organic waste to produce affordable, sustainable, and high-quality bacteria-based protein that is used for agriculture. Their tagline is Science, Future, Feed. The 2 male winners of the Go-Getters Impact Award this year are Gabriel Eze, co-founder and CEO of Rural Farmers Hub in Nigeria. Gabriel and his team have developed a flagship precision management solution called Capture, which utilizes big data to help improve crop health and soil quality assessment capacity for smallholder farmers, big businesses, and plantations. Congratulations, Gabriel. The second male impact winner is Constantine Edward, founder of AGRF in Tanzania. Konstantin's company produces insect-based alternative protein, utilizing a pioneering waste-to-nutrient technology. Through the use of insects, AgriLife provides sustainable and adaptable cost-effective feeds for animals and ensuring incomes for poultry and fish farmers. Congratulations. Felicitación, hongera sana, and congratulations to all of you, the co-founders and your teams that have done an amazing job this year. Let me now turn back over to you, Shantori, and strive to announce this year's Go-Getters Grand Prize winners.
Thank you, Agnes, and really well done by the 4 Impact Award winners. I really do look forward to meeting you someday soon, and even if we've become quite good at these virtual meeting places, it still doesn't match the in-person meetings. I will now be handed the envelope, but before I open it, let me say that I understand that the female competitors this year were really strong. Even though they were only 23.5% of the total applications that we received, they really have some amazing businesses. So now let me open up the envelope. And let's see who the winner is. The female winner of the Go-Getters Agripreneur Prize 2021 is Tracy Kimati, founder of 3C Malls Baridi in Kenya. When this year's Go-Getters Female Grand Prize winner first launched her company in 2018, she focused on trying to develop solar mini-grids to provide clean, affordable electricity to Kenya's rural pastoralist communities. She then pivoted her business model and developed off-grid solar cold storage innovation to reduce post-slaughter loss in East Africa's value chain, using a very innovative pay-as-you-cool revenue model. So a big congratulations to Tracy. I hope next time when I'm in Kenya, we will have the opportunity to meet, or perhaps here in Norway. Now, Strive, it's so good to see you here this evening. May you please announce the male winner of this year's Go-Getters Agripreneur Prize.
Thank you so much, Agnes and Sven, my partners in this great initiative. Thank you so much for your extraordinary work. I really want to begin by congratulating all our participants this year. In a difficult year, you rose up to meet the challenge. As I've always said, in Africa, we work in the conditions, not against the conditions. It is often extremely challenging, but you rose up to show what it is to be an entrepreneur. I want to really, you are all winners, because ultimately it's not about the prize. The prize is the marketplace. The prize is your ability to meet the needs of our people through the products and remarkable services that you are developing. Well, you know, before I turn my attention to our male winner this year, let me also take this moment to express my extreme gratitude to the team at Go-Getters, who have worked through this year a very, very difficult situation to come up with this excellent slate of participants this year. Thank you. I really appreciate you and all our partners at Yara, and our partners at AGRA, and all our partners in supporting this prize with funding and other material support. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Allow me to now turn my attention to the winner, because I guess that's what you're all looking forward to. I have been given this golden envelope. And of course, before looking at this envelope, I also had an opportunity to look at some of the extraordinary work you're all doing. And of course, the winner. Without much ado, let me open this envelope. I know you're all excited to find out who our winner is for this year. The winner is from Rwanda. A young man, if I may call you that, called Nshimiyimana Alexandra, who's a co-founder of Sonnet Wings. The business he started produces oils from the avocado fruit tree and uses those oils to produce cosmetics and other amazing products, including soap. What a remarkable business you have been building. You are exemplary of what I've always said should be happening in Africa. You are producing this product using locally produced avocados, which are pesticide free. You provide jobs downstream and upstream. What a remarkable work you have done. Congratulations. Congratulations to you, to your country, to your people, and to the continent of Africa as we celebrate you as this year's winner of this prize. May you go on from strength to strength. God bless you. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Congratulations. You know, this is the point where I was about to introduce former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, but I've just seen in the house right now a very good friend of his who would probably introduce him a lot better than me. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Good friend of President Obasanjo. Recognize a few words, sir. Just a few words. Just recognize these people, sir. Come on out. A round of applause for the former Prime Minister.
This is not fair, really. But now that I've been ambushed and asked to come up here, I want to first take the opportunity to welcome all the visitors who have come to the city in the sun, Nairobi. Welcome. I'm very happy to meet so many familiar faces around here. I see my friend from Addis here, brother from Dar es Salaam. So many familiar faces here. I was not invited. I just invited myself. And just curious, walking around, and I told so many people inside here, so I've come. But I don't see my friend. You asked me to come and...
He just had to leave. He had to leave, sir.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, he's left, therefore I have nobody to introduce.
But we got him on camera, so you can introduce the clip we got. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know what to say. But I can see, I mean, I saw my friend strive talking, giving an award. And I know that you are talking about a very important topic for our continent, the food self-sufficiency. Food security is something that is so important to our people. Because basically we talk about fundamental human rights, the basic ones. The right to life, the right to food, the right to shelter, the right to health, and the right to education. So food is very important for our people. And many of our people actually are starving. A number of our people are starving, yet Africa does not have to have its people starving. Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of resources. And we can make use of these resources if in the service of our people, so that our people don't have to sleep hungry. I keep on talking, I just want to talk about the African lion, the story of the African lion. And they say that the African lion has been asleep for a long time, and is woken up and is sending a message to the Asian tiger and saying that I'm the African lion. I've been asleep in the African tropics, in the African jungle. The European bear has retreated to the poles. And then the American panther is also on the retreat. I have come up as African lion. I'm sitting on the African gold, bounded by the mountains of Kilimanjaro and Atlas in the west, the mighty Congo, the Nile, the Gambia, the Limpopo, the Rovuma, and I'm sitting on African gold, African oil, African diamond, African iron ore, African bauxite, and I will use all these resources to transform Africa and make this 21st century truly African century. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga there. Another round of applause, folks. Thank you for that impromptu. Wonderful, wonderful speech. And okay, this is the moment, folks, the Africa Food Prize. And we spoke literally a short while ago to former Nigerian president, who's also the chairman of the Africa Food Prize Committee, President Olusegun Obasanjo. This is what he had to say. Take a listen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of Kenya Republic, and our host, Your Excellency President Museveni of Uganda, Your Excellency President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency President of Burkina Faso, Your Excellency President of Tunisia, Your Excellency President of Djibouti, Your Excellency Hailemariam Desalegn, former Prime Minister of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and Chair, Africa Green Revolution Forum, Excellencies, former heads of government, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, President of AGRA, members of the African Food Prize Committee, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and privilege to join you again this year in acknowledging distinguished fellows, men and women whose outstanding initiatives demonstrate to us what needs to be done to transform agriculture and agribusiness across this continent of Africa. Before introducing this year's Africa Food Prize winner, I wish to recognize the valuable work of members of the Africa Food Prize Committee. Their vast experience and wise judgment on matters of agriculture and agribusiness is the difficult task of choosing from hundreds of strong and deserving nominees who have contributed exceptionally to innovative agriculture and food production on the continent, for which this prize was created. I also want to thank the Africa Food Secretariat under the guidance of Dr. Agnes Kalibata for the work in supporting the efficient functioning of the committee. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to introduce this year's winner, the International Crop Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT. ICRISAT has, over the years, invested in projects that have improved food security across 13 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. ICRISAT, a CGIAR research center, is a non-profit, non-political public international research organization that conducts agricultural research for development in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. ICRISAT is further recognized for the inspiring role with other agricultural organizations to rethink seed development and farming practices that suit and solve Africa's agricultural challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you all to join me here in Nairobi, Kenya, and those not physically here but virtually with us, in congratulating this year's prize winner with another enthusiastic round of applause.
All right.
Let's also thank the prize sponsors, Koteva, Agra, and UPL Limited, who have made it possible for us to award these African innovators. On behalf of the selection committee and on behalf of millions of African farmers, I thank you and your dedicated team for your outstanding achievement. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another round of applause. President Obasanjo, who literally was in the building.